Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, and with just 3 days to go, I will be showing you guys another 2025 guide, this time to some of the more minor mayor elections happening across the country. So right now the media is covering New York City, but there's some very interesting and competitive possible pickup races across, from what I counted, 5 cities across the country. So we're going to be focusing on those 5 today. If you live in any of them, make sure to go vote. If you live in California, Georgia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Virginia, or New York City as well, make sure to go vote. And let's get into the video. So our first city is Minneapolis. Minneapolis, you have the incumbent Democratic mayor, Jacob Frey, running for a third term. Now, Minneapolis uses runoff voting. So that's also ranked choice voting. So basically, if no candidate reaches 50%, then there will be um, another round. So basically, the candidates who have no chance of winning will be eliminated, and their second choice, the people who voted for them, they will have a second choice. That second choice votes will go to whoever their second choice is, and so on until one candidate reaches 50%. Now, Jacob Frey's main opposition is Omar Fateh, a state senator who is um, another self-proclaimed democratic socialist. He's been trying to run a campaign similar to Zohran Mamdani's in New York City that has not worked that well for him. At some point during the Minnesota's DFL convention to endorse somebody, they endorsed Omar Fateh. He got a majority of the votes, but there was voter fraud, and that endorsement was eventually revoked. So you have all these candidates. Jacob Frey and Omar Fateh are the really only main ones. I mean, Dwayne Davis, I think he has a he can reach double digits, and Jazz Hampton, I think he could get like 7%. Um, and these are the only top 4 candidates that are gonna get like over 2% of the vote. Honestly, I think Dwayne Davis and Jazz Hampton, their supporters are probably gonna lean towards Jacob Frey a bit. They're pretty moderate. Dwayne Davis, he is a chaplain of the Minnesota State Senate, and Jazz Hampton is an app developer and former attorney. So I think Jazz Hampton and Davis's votes are probably gonna lean towards Jacob Frey. But unlike Zohran Mamdani in New York City, Omar Fateh, he has not been able to create a coalition of support to cross endorse for second choice or third choice. So that is kind of suffered for Omar Fateh. If we look at polling, Jacob Frey has beaten Omar Fateh in the latest poll from Public Policy Polling. This was actually pretty early, late August, by 5 points, 34 to 29. And Dwayne Davis does reach double digits, 10%, Jazz Hampton 5%, all other candidates at 5%, and undecideds at 17%. So honestly, I think that no candidate will reach 50% in the first round. I think it's gonna go to the second round, because in the second round, all the write-ins will be eliminated, and then in the third round, you if this poll, let's just go by this poll. In the third round, Dwayne Davis, Jazz Hampton, and all these other candidates will be eliminated. And I think it's gonna take 3 rounds, and Jacob Frey would win. I think by the third round, Jacob Frey and Omar Fateh, it's only them left. It's gonna be, I believe, 56 to 44 for Jacob Frey. 12% win in the third round. In the first round, I think Jacob Frey will beat Omar Fateh by 8%. So that's my prediction for Minneapolis. Make sure to go vote if you live in Minneapolis. There's also a less competitive mayor race happening in St. Paul, Minnesota, so make sure to go vote if you live there as well. If we go to Kalshi, here's the betting right now. I mean, this was at the start of this was right when the DFL endorsement came out. And Omar Fateh was at 71%, Frey at 62%. But when the DFL endorsement was revoked, Frey just started to gain and gain and gain. And right now, he's at 80% to Fateh's 24%. Definitely the favorite, and I believe Frey will be reelected for a third term. So now let's move to the state of New Mexico. There's a pretty interesting mayor race happening in the city of Albuquerque. I believe it is the largest city in the state of New Mexico. Incumbent Democratic Mayor Tim Keller is running for re-election. Here's all the candidates. The main opposition candidate is going to be Darren White, a former Bernalillo County Sheriff, who is a Republican. If you go look at polling, Albuquerque uses a runoff system. So the top two candidates, if no candidate reaches 50%, the top two advance to a runoff. And actually, we're only gonna look at this poll because this one uses, this one. Actually, no, we're gonna look here. Um, in this poll, the top two candidates are Tim Keller and Darren White, and Luis Sanchez and Alexander Ubalez they are both Democrats. Eddie Varela is a Republican. I mean, you have a massive chunk of undecided voters here, and I think that's what's going to decide it. But the undecided voters, they're probably going to lean towards Tim Keller. I doubt most of these voters even know that there's a mayor race going on, and when they do know, they're probably just going to vote for the incumbent Democrat, because, I mean, this is a city of Albuquerque. Tim Keller has a pretty low approval rating. I mean, that's kind of what happens in these cities, and Albuquerque is in New Mexico. New Mexico is ranked one of the lowest states in the country. But I believe Tim Keller and Darren White will go to a runoff. I mean, in 2021, Tim Keller, he was able to avoid a runoff, and was that his first term? No, that was his second term. In his first term, he had to go to runoff with Dan Lewis, and he actually won 62-37. Dan Lewis was a Republican, but things have changed since 2017, but I doubt New Mexico will vote for a Republican in a Trump White House here. But I believe they will. Darren White will probably force Tim Keller into a runoff, and I think in the first round, Tim Keller will beat Darren White by, I think, 12%, and in the runoff, I think it's going to be around 62-38 in favor of Tim Keller. But I will like to say here, rival strategy group, this is Republican leaning. In July, they polled a possible runoff between Tim Keller and every single other candidate, and Darren White actually beat Tim Keller in a one-on-one in a runoff, 43-38 by 5%. Also, this is a Republican-leaning pollster. This is big, so I doubt White does have the upper hand on Keller, but this is going to be an interesting race if it goes to a runoff. The runoff would take place on December 9th, 2025. So let's move on to our next race, and that is in Seattle. Washington, they had a nonpartisan primary. Washington, they have nonpartisan primaries. All candidates from all parties are put into an open primary, and the top two candidates make it to the general election. Incumbent Mayor Bruce Harrell, a pretty progressive Democrat, and Katie Wilson, a more moderate but still pretty liberal Democrat, made it to the general election. Bruce Harrell, he got 41%. Katie Wilson in the primary actually reached a majority of the vote, 50%. That usually doesn't happen in these open primaries, but all of these other candidates, 4%, 5%, 6%, they only got around 7% to 8%. They got around 8% other candidates. So in the open primary, and you look at these other candidates, most of them didn't affiliate with anybody, but I mean, I think most of them are gonna head to Katie Wilson. But I mean, Katie Wilson, she's already favored and gets the incumbent mayor, Bruce Harrell. There was also a debate clip that kind of went viral of Bruce Harrell saying that they shouldn't let violent criminals onto the streets. So that might help Katie Wilson. You do see here this map. It does seem to favor Katie Wilson a bit. And you look at the endorsement list. This is actually really, really interesting. The post-primary endorsements. Bruce Harrell actually receiving endorsements from pretty moderate Democrats. Pete Buttigieg, all the way from the state of Michigan, endorsing Bruce Harrell, the former Secretary of Transportation and 2020 presidential candidate, as well as also very establishment Democrat Adam Smith from Washington's 9th Congressional District. I don't think that even includes, no, it doesn't include Seattle, I believe. Steve Hobbs, the Secretary of State of Washington and one state senator. But you see here, Katie Wilson, actually, I think Katie Wilson actually is pretty progressive. Just not as bad as Bruce Harrell, but both of them have a pretty progressive track record. Katie Wilson actually got the endorsement from Pramila Jayapal, from Washington's 7th Congressional District. She switched her endorsement from Bruce Harrell to Katie Wilson after the primary. And also from former representative and former member of the Squad, the Progressive Squad in the House of Representatives, Jamal Bowman from the state of New York. So that's very interesting. If we look at the endorsements from the primary, Bruce Harrell got the endorsements from, Maria Cantwell, I believe the junior senator from the state of Washington. Premier Jayapal, who then switched her endorsement. Marilyn Strickland, from Washington's 10th Congressional District. Nick Brown, the new Attorney General of the state of Washington. Bruce Harrell, he has a lot of endorsements, but Katie Wilson is actually doing fairly well. It's kind of split here. Honestly, there's not like this election doesn't have that much of a party split between Democrats. It's because both of these candidates are kind of progressive. So I think Katie Wilson is the favorite here. And yeah, you look at these endorsement lists. They're both very impressive. I think what's gonna happen is Katie Wilson's probably gonna get like fifth. I think it's a bit closer than the primary. No, well, I think Harrell gets like 44% and Katie Wilson gets 56%. So not closer than the primary, but both of them expand on their percentages, kind of like the other voters. I think the divide's going to be kind of equal, maybe 4% to each of these candidates. So I think Katie Wilson will unseat Bruce Harrell as the mayor of Seattle and become the next mayor. So now let's go to the city of Detroit. This is an open seat. Mike Duggan, the incumbent mayor, he actually could have run for re-election, but he is running for governor of Michigan in 2026 as an independent, and that's a whole nother story. He's actually polling in double digits, like 20, 30% sometimes, but this seat is open. In the primary, in a lot of cities, those primaries are nonpartisan, including Detroit. So the top two candidates in the primary were Mary Sheffield and Solomon Kinloch. Mary Sheffield easily got over 50%, and Kinloch only got 17%. And you see here in this general election poll, Sheffield gets almost 2/3, and Kinloch gets like only 14% with 20% undecideds. So I think it's going to be a pretty easy win for Sheffield. I just wanted to talk about this race because it is an open seat left by very popular and somewhat moderate mayor Mike Duggan. Mike Duggan's like one of the only popular big city mayors. So, yeah, I think Mary Sheffield will be the next mayor of Detroit. This one's not competitive at all. Yeah, once again, I just really wanted to talk about it because of Mike Duggan. So, that's it for Detroit. Now let's go to our final race, and that is going to be Miami. Miami's incumbent Republican mayor, Francis Suarez, and also 2024 presidential candidate, is term limited and cannot run for a third term because he can only serve 2 terms. And this is an open primary. No, not an open primary, but the top 2 candidates will make it to a runoff. Yeah. You have all these candidates. I doubt there will not be a runoff. So, there's one main Republican, and that is Emilio Gonzalez, the former city manager and former director of U.S. Citizen and Immigration Services. And the main Democrat, I think it's going to be, I believe it was, who was it? Eileen Higgins? Yeah, Eileen Higgins. And you also have Xavier Suarez, the father of Francis Suarez, running. It's an interesting primary. This only includes 5 candidates. Higgins is getting over 36%. I would like to say that Miami-Dade County, I believe they voted for, let's check here. Miami-Dade County, I believe they did vote for, Donald Trump in 2024 by double digits. And this was a flip. This county flipped from 2020, which voted for Biden by 7%. With ICE and all of that, sure, that might have changed. But let's look at these candidates that did not make it to the second round. Joe Carallo, Ken Russell, and Xavier Suarez. What party affiliation did they belong to? So Suarez belonged to the Republican Party. His son's the incumbent Republican mayor. Ken Russell is a Democrat. And Joe Carallo is a Republican. So if we add those totals, Let's add Corral's totals to Gonzalez's, 26%. And then you add Suarez's to Gonzalez's. That gives you 33% Republican in this poll and 48% Democrat. And then you have 19% undecideds. So this will most likely go into a runoff. It's possible that two Democrats could make it to the runoff, Eileen Higgins and Ken Russell, but that would take a lot of splitting than expected between Gonzalez, Corral, and Suarez. Right now, I do believe it's going to be Gonzalez and Higgins who make it to the runoff, and I think Higgins would win in a runoff 54-46. So, these are my predictions for the somewhat competitive mayor elections happening in 2025. Miami, Detroit, Seattle, Albuquerque, Minneapolis. If you live in any of them, make sure to go vote. This was a fun little guide to some more of the minor and lesser talked about races happening in 2025. So I hope please subscribe, like to support more content like this, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.